Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast. This is episode number 73. A big thank you to everyone who continues to tune in now from all over the world. Despite being a British-based podcast, we're now we have guests from all over the world. We have viewers and listeners from all over the world. And thank you for your continued support. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, please do put some comments as the podcast goes along. And don't forget, if you're watching it on YouTube, you can hit that all important subscribe button, so you automatically get notified about future podcasts. I am really delighted, and I say that all the time, but I really am this week. I'm really delighted to welcome our guest, Maharani Jay Bhakti Goswamini. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Hare Krishna, Narada Prabhu. Thank you so much for having me here in your wonderful podcast. My dandavats to everyone.
Jai Goranga. Maharani, it's wonderful.
Jai.
We're gonna have a wonderful conversation. I have some fantastic questions to put to you, and I know a lot of our viewers and listeners will be keen to meet you, even though it's over the digital airwaves. They're keen to meet with you and see a lady wearing saffron. So I'm really excited to get this conversation going. So let's just start with a nice, easy question. It's the question I ask every single guest to start with. Please tell us a bit about you and where you're from.
Thank you so much for your question. I was born in Santiago, Chile. That's the capital of Chile, 55 years ago. In a wonderful family with a lot of love for art, literature, and spirituality. And I was raised Roman Catholic. I was very devout, taking communion every day. I went to an Irish nuns school, and I had the blessing of having a lot of clarity regarding what I wanted to do with my life. So I chose to study in college a career that I consider was the most spiritual, the one that could allow me to continue with this strong inclination towards spirituality. So I studied art history in the University of Chile. And I graduated quite young. So then I was accepted in the US for graduate school. And I did very well here as well. And then got citizenship. So I started working with California as my base, but traveling constantly. My main work was as an art historian in the Vatican museums in Rome. So I was constantly traveling. And my brother lives in Switzerland. He has 8 kids there.
Wow.
So it was delightful for me to be able to work in Rome and visit him all the time. And I also traveled back to Chile to give lectures and to be in touch with academia and friends there from the time when I had started my career there. And I worked also in RTV, writing and doing the research for the scripts, editing them, and then as the conductor of the programs. So my career was really wonderful. And at the very beginning of it, I met the devotees. So even though I was so committed to art history, my deities and my devotional life were the center of my life anywhere I went. And I traveled with my beautiful Sundar Dayadarni Tagore everywhere I went.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. I'm feeling
Yes.
joyful. I'm feeling joyful just listening to your story.
Thank you.
So that leads us on to I'm asking about, how did you discover Krishna consciousness? You talked about meeting the devotees. Was that in California or was that somewhere else?
Was in Chile, actually, in my home country. As I say, I finished the college quite young, and I had already done a lot in my career. So I started teaching very young, and I had to teach a class in surrealism about an artist, Mata. He's quite famous in England, so you may have seen his work, the Tate at least. And Mata had based some part of his work in no more no less than the Vedas. So I wanted to get deeper in my knowledge of the Vedas. I had studied the Bhagavad Gita, but as most of us, I had had an experience with impersonalism. So when I wanted to get deeper to prepare my classes, I encountered the Institute for Vedic Studies that was ISKCON. And the first thing I learned was that I needed to hear the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam from a bona fide guru. So I started going to classes morning and evening and waiting for that guru to show up and click my heart and surrender to him. And many gurus came. And I was disappointed every time that the click never happened, until one day the devotees were so excited and told me, Srila Viravahu is visiting. He loves art. He's into academia. He's even creating a Vaishnava college. So probably he's going to be your Gurudeva. And it was not actually, but he listened to me. And the most incredible thing happened. He sent me to my Gurudeva, who was outside ISKCON. He told me that I was not going to find what I was looking there, and kept going like back and forth, telling me you should go to meet him. And then, oh, but we have here also what you need. And it was a little strange, but finally he had put in my heart that. So I followed the advice. And when I met Srila Bhaktikavi Atulananda Swami, immediately I knew that he was my Gurudeva, gave him obeisances, moved to live in the temple. He told me to continue teaching, so I kept teaching one class, but I was living already in the temple, and I started then with full power, emphasis, and enthusiasm, my devotional life as a Vaishnava. And when I moved to the US for graduate school, I continued, of course, and all these years, I have always been in touch with Gurudeva. So it was really a key event in my life. But it was very interesting that many years after, like 10 years after, I re-encountered Srila Viravahu in LA. And when I reminded him of our meeting, at first he couldn't believe it. And he was like, no, that's impossible. But he took a pause, he looked at his deities. We were in his office in LA. And he told me, now I understand. What happened is that Krishna put a cloud, and I told you to go to Atulananda Prabhu. That's how he referred to my Gurudeva. And for some reason, you needed to take initiation for him. It was in Krishna's plans. I don't know what was meant to be. But now I do understand, because if I had taken initiation in ISKCON, I would have not been granted Sanjas, and I would not be a Guru Ma, initiating disciples and fulfilling the mission that I have now. So it's all Krishna's arrangements, and we don't understand his mysteries, but they are all beautiful.
That sounds wonderful. And just to clarify, because some of our listeners and viewers won't be aware of who Srila Bhaktikavi Atulananda is. He's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, I understand.
Yes.
And he is the current Acharya of the Sarasvat Gaudiya.
Yes, Sarasvat Gaudiya is his mission. It's mainly in Chile. Srila Prabhupada gave my Gurudeva that mission. My Gurudeva is the son of a diplomat. So when he met the devotees, he was living in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. His father was the ambassador for Argentina. And he was always traveling. He was never in Chile. Indeed, he met Srila Prabhupada in Mexico. And when Srila Prabhupada initiated him, gave him the service and the mission to open a temple in Chile. And he opened a temple in every place in Chile, from north to south, and that is today Sarasvat Gaudilla.
Wow, wow. That sounds very inspiring and uplifting to hear about that. And
anyone is welcome to visit these amazing temples in Chile. It's a very beautiful country, and the temples are all welcome and open, and very welcoming. So everyone can go.
and it's also encouraging, before we move on with the conversation, I just want to say how encouraging it is to hear that somebody in ISKCON referred you for initiation outside of ISKCON.
Yeah, that was incredible. And it's something that it took a moment to Srila Virabhajo himself to realize it, because he was telling me at first, no, I would have never let you go. I personally had so much service for you as a professor, someone in academia that can do translations, editing. Definitely, this would have not been in my heart, but it was. And then he recognized that there was some plan of Krishna in doing so. So very, very beautiful.
Wow, wow. So, Maharani, as we were talking about before I hit the record button, I kind of discovered you online around 3 years ago, during the pandemic, and I was doing my own research for my book on the diversity of the Hare Krishna movement. And obviously, the pandemic, I had spent so much time at home on the internet, and I came across this photo of yourself, a lady wearing saffron. And I think we've been friends on kind of Facebook. You know, we've been in
Yes.
contact on Facebook for some time. So you are a sannyasini, I think is the
Yes.
correct title. Please tell us about that. What is a sannyasini, and how long have you been in that particular ashram?
Thank you for your question. So a Sanyasini is really no different than a Sanjasi. That's the Sanskrit conjugation and the way to decline for the feminine. But taking Sanjas means taking renunciation. So we renounce to the identification with the material world. Therefore, you renounce to the identification of being a man or a woman, to the identification with the sexes and the interest, of course, in other sexes, because you take vows of celibacy. And taking renunciation is actually not very common in general, but is less common for a woman. Nonetheless, in scripture, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained in his own words that this is actually possible. And everyone can go read it. Is in the Chaitanya Siksamrita 2.4, and it's explained then that there is no difference, that woman or man can take sanjas, that being that is someone that is educated, learned, that's possible. And also is explained furthermore that it's possible to receive also the Gayatri mantra, though some people say it's not a Gayatri itself, but Sanjasis, those who take Sanjas, either a Sanjasi or Sanjasini, chant an extra line in their Gayatri, and this is what is given together with the saffron in initiation. And my Gurudeva took Sanjas from Srila Tripurari Swami, most learned and beloved disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Tripurari Swami was asked by my Gurudeva if women could take sannyas. And he quoted Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Chaitanya Sikshamrita 2.4, and also explained that Gayatri herself is a female personality. So of course, women can chant the Gayatri. So it's not just dressing on saffron, but you receive the Gayatri in a fire ceremony. And this is something exceptional, of course, that you don't see very often. And since you are interested in interviewing me, I can also answer the other part of your question that you say, well, how long ago this happened? In 2017, I first took renunciation, and I was dressing for 3 years in white. I was very happy. I did not expect anything else, and I was already fulfilling my mission. My Gurudeva had told me to give initiation, particularly to women, because many women don't feel, because of their own personal experiences or traumas, that they can really take initiation with a male guru. So there was a need to fulfill this service, and I was very happy to do what my Gurudeva was asking me to do and going on with my mission here in San Diego. But then after 3 years, I felt seriously ill, and I was happy to leave the body. I had no hesitation. But my Gurudeva felt differently. He wanted me to keep going, and he felt that I was too young to leave the body. So he consulted with his spiritual brother, another wonderful disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Migranatacharya Prabhu, who is an amazing astrologer. So Gurudeva asked what was recommended from my astrological chart that could be done to help my health, thinking probably of some gems or some kind of ritual as recommended usually in Vedic astrology. And to our surprise, the first thing they showed was that the color white was not good for myself, that indeed it was depleting me of my prana, my life force, that white was a color that took away energy from me. So, of course, the next question by Gurudeva was, what was the color recommended for myself? And to our great surprise, it said that saffron was the best color for myself according to my astrological chart, and that would give me plenty of energy and life. And furthermore, to keep surprising us, my astrological chart said that I had come to this life that I was currently living to take sanjas, that was the purpose of this current life that I was living. So after that, my Gurudeva consulted with his Sanjas guru, and it was agreed that I could take Sanjas, no problem. And they were very generous, considering that I had the qualifications. I like to believe that it was more an emergency due to my health condition. And Migranatacharya is amazing in everything regarding ceremonies. So we had a beautiful fire ceremony, and I received my saffron clothes, my Sanja's name, and the amazing Gayatri. That moment changed my life. I came back to life at that moment. I really felt all that life force coming back to me when that Gayatri mantra for Sanjas was recited on my ear, and I got my Sanyasini name and wore for the first time my saffron clothes. So my health was indeed restored, and this was 3 years ago. And then I have been in renunciation for a total of 6 years. And also, Gurudeva consulted with Migranatacharya what the astrological chart would recommend in my case as the best day and time to take Sanjas. And to our great delight, it was on Radhastami.
Wow.
So I felt so blessed and so welcomed by Sri Radhe, to whom I had prayed for so many years for renunciation before the first time I dressed in white. And now she was granting me this amazing opportunity to dress in saffron and to receive the proper initiation, which I was not dreaming of, but it came. So this was amazing. It really fulfilled my heart, because since childhood, I was inclined towards renunciation, but I felt that it was not okay that women could not properly take renunciation, that we could not dress in saffron and have the ceremony, because that was my understanding up to that point, until this became a need and Gurudeva asked his Sanjas Guru. We didn't know really that it was actually in the scripture open to women. So I always felt, yeah, I want to be a monk, but not like women dressing in white. That's more like a different ashram. It doesn't really feel like you're taking a renunciation. It's more like after being married, you get deeper, but it's just not what I wanted. Nonetheless, I was very happy the moment that I accepted white and I was living that way. But saffron changed my life, definitely. It was incredible. So I'm very happy to say that I've been in this order for 6 years, and that it has been the happiest of all my lives. I'm sure that I was never, ever before this happy. It's amazing. Thank you so
Wow.
much for asking.
Well, you look very happy, Maharani. You have a
I
big,
am.
big smile on your face. Are there other sannyasinis in the Sarasvat Gaudiya mat? Or,
No, it's Sarasvat Gaudiya. Is not the case. I would say that in general, women are looking to get married and to have children, and to be mothers. So that's the most common. And even some women that think that they would take renunciation, so they start dressing in white. After a while, they go back to married ashram and they become grihastas. So Gurudeva has been very cautious to not do so. And even when he gave me Sanjas, he mentioned, he said that it was not something he intended to really repeat, that this has been an exception due to my health and other circumstances. And he also mentioned that he was very surprised when, upon learning of my astrological chart, I was jumping in delight at the idea of being renunciant monk, to take a renunciation, because most women would have cried. Those were his words, that for them would have been something terrible. And for me, it's the happiest. I mean, most women might be waiting for their blue prince, but I married the topmost blue prince. There is no one more beautiful and with more qualities. He has all the qualities topmost. And I also have so many spiritual children. So I have also fulfilled those desires, but to the topmost.
and can I ask about your kind of material world family? You talked about you have a brother in
Yeah.
Switzerland. What do your family think of you becoming a kind of a sannyasini, living this type of lifestyle?
Well, at the beginning, when I just embraced Krishna consciousness and went to live in the temple, they were very opposed to it. But when they went to visit me and they met Gurudeva and they saw the kind of life I was living, they were all very supportive. Particularly my younger brother has always been very supportive. He is not initiated, but is like a devotee. All his kids are vegetarian, and my brother wears a Sikh America and is always in contact with my Gurudeva. And he was always very supportive. So when I told him, he understood immediately. He told me, yeah, that has been your nature. So it makes sense. And if Gurudeva approves, is of course good for you because he only does good things for you. My elder brother was more hesitant and insisted that I needed to really think it very deeply and if possible, take more time before that decision. He is a wonderful man. We're the three of us very close, but my elder brother really always wanted me to marry a millionaire or a billionaire and to have a life traveling in a big yacht, like his life is these big boats. So he knows many millionaires and billionaires that could have married me and taken me in one of these big boats around the world, visiting all the museums and just so happy in his eyes. So he asked me to really think it further. And I explained that I had given to it a lot of thought, that I had gone to India 3 times in a row, only with this purpose of meditating deeply and praying deeply to be granted to take renunciation. And he ended up giving me full support. So it's very nice. Our mother left the body before I took Sanjas, but even though at first she was so opposed because she wanted me to continue with my great career in art history and couldn't understand that I would move to live in a temple, she ended up also taking initiation. So supportive of my bhakti, but she left the body many years ago and never saw me in Sanjas.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that. It's always good to hear when families are supportive, because from the kind of in the material world, this Krishna conscious lifestyle is seen as very weird and very odd. You know, you're giving up alcohol, you're giving up meat, you're giving up all these material things. And I mean, my family, I think, just see me as a little bit odd. But they don't understand necessarily that we're really digging deeper spiritually. You know, we're disillusioned with all these material things, and we're looking for something much more kind of spiritual to fulfill us, a kind of inner hankering. So it's good to hear your story. Before we met today on Zoom, I was thinking, I was trying to think of some other sannyasinis in the world that I am aware of, and there's very few. There's certainly very, very few. And in my own research, certainly in the Sarasvat line, so those are all the mats and all the sanghas that come from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. In the Sarasvat line, I think in the Nityananda line, there might be a bit more, but in the Sarasvat line, there's only 2 mats that I'm aware of that allow, sorry, 3, including the Sarasvat Gaudiya, but 2 other mats that allow women to wear saffron. So one of them is the Sri Chaitanya Sarasvat mat, which is the Sri Maharaj mat. And I'm aware of 2 ladies that wear saffron. They don't initiate though, and they don't have the title of Goswamini, but they do wear saffron. Govinda Maharaj was very happy for them to wear saffron. And then the other mat, which is a mat that I've only come across recently, is I've written it down, the Sri Guru Prapana Ashram. And the Acharya is a lady.
Yes.
You're aware of this group.
I
You've
have
met
met
her.
her and in India, and many of her followers too, and we're always in touch. They're wonderful.
It's wonderful, isn't it? It's like a whole mat kind of
Yes.
run by women.
Yeah, and they're all in saffron. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Yes.
And my understanding, so Guru Mata Srimati Jai Shri Devi Goswamini, her Guru Maharaj, Srila Patit Pavan Goswami Thakur, my understanding was that he set up a mat or an ashram for women. It was exclusively for women.
Yes.
So they could have a safe space to practice their bhakti. And then I think that was maybe, I don't know which decade that was, maybe the 40s or 50s or 60s. But I just find it really kind of inspiring that there's these wonderful ladies wearing saffron. And and there's one devotee in Britain who is Mel, who is he is a disciple of Srimati Jai Shri Devi Goswamini. So I have had some conversations with him, but I would like to kind of spend more time getting to know them. Okay, so understandably, the Gaudiya tradition, so the Gaudiya tradition, the Hare Krishna tradition, which is originally from the area that we call India, is now all over the world. It's in Europe, it's in South America, it's in North America, it's in the UK, and generally in Europe, in North America, it's a very kind of, we live in a very kind of socially liberal culture. But the Gaudiya tradition, the Hare Krishna tradition, is kind of seen as kind of socially conservative. ISKCON in the UK, even though it's a missionary organization, and other mats in the UK, even though they're missionary, the outside world sees them as very socially conservative. You can't do this and you can't do that, in this socially conservative culture, how have you been received? Because I can imagine there will be some quarters, some sections of the Hare Krishna movement that will not be happy to see a lady wearing saffron. So what kind of response have you received from the wider Hare Krishna network?
And that's a beautiful question, because what I see is that we really, as devotees, tend to forget something that is quintessential to being a devotee, and that is that we're supposed to be like harsh with ourselves in criticizing ourselves and what we cannot achieve and should be achieving, and be very understanding and merciful with others. But we tend to forget this and to criticize too much. And also there is too much gossiping going on all the time. One can see this in the temples. It's like a high school or a preparatory school. So it's sad to see that. So I had haters, of course, and most of them had come from a place of assumptions. For example, they see my name and they ask me, very angry, why am I giving myself this title? So I explained that it's actually not a title, that it is my Sanjas name, is my spiritual name given by my Guru Jay Bhakti Goswamini. And that before that, he addressed me as Maharani, because a male monk is addressed as a Maharaj, and it's proper to address the female as Maharani. Indeed, you don't really say the names of the monks, like you don't call Radhanath Swami, hey Radhanath, or something like that. Not even Radhanath Swami. You would say Maharaj is the etiquette. So in following this, my Gurudeva started calling me Maharani. And in Chile, we tend to put the article, though is grammatically incorrect, but it's a sort of more familiar way, like more affectionate. So I became La Maharani, because I'm the only one in Sarasvat Gaudiya, and also it's not quite common. So Gurudeva is always asking if La Maharani already knows, if they send that to La Maharani, or when we have our Zoom group with Gurudeva, weekly satsang, he always, if he is entering a little bit after, he asks if La Maharani already spoke. So they all know me as La Maharani. So in social media, I decided to put first Maharani, since a lot of people already knew me as such, but I'm not calling myself Maharani or indicating to people that they should call me Maharani. And I'm not giving myself the title Goswamini, is my Sanjas name. So what was very beautiful to me was that the first day that I went to Ishkom, dressing in saffron and expecting all kind of rotten tomatoes on myself, but I was not gonna miss the lovely darsham of Radha Giridhari, particularly after I had prayed so much to Sri Radha, to Radha Giridhari, to give me renunciation, because my Gurudeva had explained it's all in Radharani's hands. You need to pray to her. And if she's pleased, then she will whisper to see Krishna and everything will happen. But is she the one? Is she the queen of renunciation? So, of course, I wanted to go back. And when I went back, I was so happy to be greeted. Like the first thing, like is that they asked me, so now we call you Maharani? And I was so happy. That was a surprise to me. But that was just the first encounter. That was Dravida Prabhu, who has always been very kind to me. And I love poetry, so I have always had this good connection with him because of all his poems. So he was so kind, and that was the first person that encountered me. And then the young people going, they were all so kind. Like they greeted me properly. They even gave me like obeisances as you greet a sannyasi. So it was very beautiful. But then with what is like the body government of San Diego, I sensed a lot of animosity, and we had never had any kind of problems. And then I began receiving different complaints about myself, when I'm very friendly and I make friends everywhere, and I had been doing service there for very long. So I got boss, and I always get boss. Like some people are delighted and approve, particularly women. And other women not. Other women are very angry to see you wearing saffron and tell you that it's wrong, that you should not do that. And the same happens online. Like sometimes people out of nowhere start writing to me, and usually it's assumptions. They tell me, for example, you have no right to wear saffron. Why are you imposing yourself as such? And all kinds of assumptions. They don't ask me who gave you sanjas or under which conditions. So I try to keep a balance too. And as always, I like the positive side. So I remain friends and in touch with everyone who is positive and welcoming, like you, because I don't see that there is much that you can get from people who are antagonistic. They're not going to change their views, and I'm not intending to change their perspective. Though I think that if Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says something explicitly, and you can find it in his books, then that should be respected. And that also what a guru, a bona fide guru, and furthermore a disciple of Srila Prabhupada is sanctioning, also should be respected, because we know that we need to respect the guru even further than the Vedas. So yes, I have encountered a little bit of everything. And I'm very grateful. I'm very, very happy to encounter you and this opportunity to tell my story, because I'm not self-imposing myself. I would never do that. I'll find that very disrespectful to just dress in saffron and say, hey, I'm Goswamini or something like that. That's not in my nature.
And do you feel you're also receiving a lot of positive attention because you're probably one of very few sannyasinis in the Western world? I mean, I've mentioned a few earlier in terms of where are they now in the world. I think there's probably less than maybe 3 sannyasinis in the Western world, and
that's also my account. And It's also significant that I had a fire ceremony where I was given the Gayatri that is given when you take Sanjas. So, because that's not the case of other women taking renunciation and wearing saffron. So I consider that very significant, and a lot of people love that and are so positive, so welcoming, and so supportive. Indeed, my own followers here for my mission in San Diego absolutely love that. And there are a few who had asked me to take shelter on me and have taken initiation. And they always tell me that one thing that they definitely love is the fact that I am a female monk, that I took renunciation, that I took sanjas, that I wear saffron, that I chant my Gayatri, and that all that they see it as very empowering and inspiring. And it is so beautiful. Even when I walk on the streets, people would greet me and ask me, and I'm well loved in my community where there are so many yoga studios. So I teach Bhagavad Gita for their YTT program, for their yoga teacher training. I do Agnihotra ceremonies, and they all come to me with questions, and when they are looking for a space to meditate and to feel happy, they also come to me. So it's very beautiful, very, very welcoming, and I'm very blessed actually to have so much support and so much love. And just having the support of my Guru Deva means everything to me.
Jai, do you find, and are you receiving also a lot of correspondence from people within the devotee community, particularly women within the devotee community,
Yes,
who are
and that's very beautiful.
kind of they're looking up to you as a role model, as a figurehead, as someone
Yes,
that they're inspired by? Because certainly, I don't want to keep using ISKCON as an example, but within ISKCON, there possibly is that lack of female leadership. I mean, there are wonderful Vaishnavis in ISKCON and they're having leadership positions, but it's still very male dominated. And I've actually lost track of whether women are allowed to become gurus in ISKCON. I've just lost track of the whole discussion. But
yeah.
I know that there are women within ISKCON who are crying out for that leadership.
Exactly. And they're all wonderful and they deserve it. And I'm very supportive of all their initiatives to um, speak up, to have their voices heard. And I have supported many of their projects too. But still, it remains something that is lacking. And women don't have that. So it's very beautiful how many women write to me in social media, particularly, that before I was never in social media. And many times I have wanted to leave, but then it's because of these women that I remain, because they find me there and they write to me and they tell me things like, I always follow your classes, your live transmissions, and you are a great inspiration for myself. And they also write that it's an inspiration for their daughters and that their motherhood changed because of this, and that they wish that in the future their daughters could also have a connection with me. They're always very respectful. They ask me if they can write to me. And I always tell them that, of course, that they're very welcome to write, to call me, to have a video conference, to visit me here if they have that option. And it's very beautiful. And I have been a healer since I'm a child. So I always work to help particularly women. So I have a lot of experience helping women with women's health. So they also open their hearts to me in ways that is hard for them to male gurus. And they end up finding a way to balance their bhakti, their private life, their life as mother, their struggles as working women, and their female health. So it's very beautiful. I feel that that's important service, and I really wish that more women would look at all the positive aspect and not fear all like the antagonism or the negative side, because the positive is always bigger. I always say the light is bigger than the darkness. So it doesn't matter that there is a little bit of darkness, because the light is always gonna win. So we can support women. Definitely is needed, is beautiful. And yes, many women write to me, and I encourage them not to be shy, because I always answer, and I'm always happy. And I'm very private too. If they are opening their heart to me, I don't relate that, not even to my Guru Deva. It's just between us, and I'm very respectful of that. So they can write
Wonderful.
to me.
Excellent. And I'm sure after this podcast, many more women will hopefully get in touch with you.
Oh, they're all welcome.
You'll be just spending
And
the
men
whole
are
day
also
responding to emails.
welcome. Actually, I have also male disciples that they had a strong relationship with the motherhood and with their own female side, and that they also felt that they wanted to be more related to women, and that empowering women was important to them. So they felt very attracted to the idea of having a Guru Ma. They call me Guru Ma. It's very loving. So I have initiated males also, and they are so supportive, and they are so supportive of my needs and desire to give a spiritual shelter to women. So males are also welcome to write.
Jai. So that kind of leads nicely on to kind of the next question about you have disciples.
Yes.
I mean, I was going to ask how many. That's not really any of my business. Do you have a lot? Do you see them often? Are they local? How does that work?
I have a weekly program, and they come to my program. And when they move out of San Diego, which happens because San Diego is so expensive as a city, then they remain in touch, and they follow the Monday program online, or they make sure that they communicate with me, even if they are as far as in New Zealand. So they remain in touch. But those who are living here, they not only come to my program, but they have their own days when they come to study deeper. So we go through the principal books first, and then we keep going. During the programs is open to everyone, so we focus more on Bhagavad Gita, a little bit on Srimad Bhagavatam, and sometimes Chaitanya Charitamrita, but mainly Bhagavad Gita. And it's a mix of people who have already taken initiation and a lot of people who are just starting to cultivate their spirituality. So disciples come on their special days all together or individually, depending on their needs. And I'm available, I always tell them, 9 days a week, like the Beatles. 24 hours, of course. I always tell them, that by being a monk, I don't have a husband that is going to get jealous of my time being shared. So I can give you all my time. And if what you need is a japa walk, we can do that. We are 2 blocks from the ocean, so that gives nice opportunities too. And I'm blessed with a beautiful patio also, where we can sit and talk. And I have the most incredible deities. That's the greatest mercy. The shrine is so beautiful. So most times we just want to be in front of the shrine, chanting, talking, and having our connection. I would prefer not to have too many disciples. I did not want to really initiate. I'm not ashamed to say this. It's more that I'm ashamed of initiating, because I always feel that Gurudeva is the one who has all the qualifications to initiate, and that the most wonderful thing is to be a disciple of Gurudeva, meaning my own Gurudeva. And I think that we all feel like that about our Guru. That's why we take initiation with them, because it's the one that we feel is the topmost, is the best for my heart. And I do take a very seriously and to the heart the instructions of Gurudeva. Most times he would say, like, very softly and kindly, like a suggestion, but I know that it's an order. So I take it to my heart. So when he gave me the order to give initiation, I could not do it. The first one did it, and he explained it to me. Yeah, it's the disciple that make you a guru. And he explained to me that it was the same to him. When the first one came and asked for initiation, he even repented after doing it, and he was like, no, this is crazy, it cannot be done. Like, who am I to be initiating? But then he went to Mongol Arctic and saw his picture already in the shrine and realized it is done. So it was similar with me. They immediately put my picture in their shrine, so there was nothing to do. And Gurudeva kept explaining to me that there are many reasons why young people that are the ones that are most attractive to me. My followers and my disciples are very young, most of them. So that women would really need a female guru, and that for many men is also needed that love and comfort of a mother, and that I'm very motherly, particularly when it comes to prasadam and to please everyone, those who like it very spicy, not so spicy. And I always make it in a way that everyone is happy and embrace everyone with motherly love. So I reluctantly, really, this was the first time that I accepted an instruction, not with all my heart, because I didn't want to really be initiating. I wanted that first disciple to take initiation with Gurudeva. And she explained to me, as much as I love Gurudeva, she also calls my Guru Gurudeva, I could not take initiation with a man. I need to trust a woman, and I could only be this close with a female guru. So it's something that happened, and that even though every time I initiate, I say in my heart, last one, it happens again, because there is a need, and is what Gurudeva asked me. So he knew that I would do what he would say. So he asked me to do it, and I'm here for those who need it. It's also difficult because, particularly for young people, it's common to be breaking principles. I mean, for devotees who have been devotees their whole life, they break principles. And we know what happened at those moments. Well, the guru takes the reactions. So it's challenging too, because I'm doing all great and I have everything to have good health and to be very happy. And I already told you that I was almost leaving the body. So it's challenging too, but it's so beautiful to have all these spiritual children that love me so much and that I adore them. And there is so much mutual support. So same as my Gurudeva was sending you greetings, they were also sending you greetings and thanking you, because they feel so happy whenever I'm acknowledged. They don't like it when people are disrespectful or doubting my knowledge or right to do what my Gurudeva is asking me to do. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful having these spiritual children.
Well, Maharani, I acknowledge you and respect you because you're a human being. And we should recognize that Krishna exists in the hearts of all. Paramatma exists in every living entity. And I just try and treat people the way I'd like to be treated, on the very basic human level, whether they're Hare Krishna devotees or not. But
I pray that everyone treats you with the love and respect that you deserve as a human being, with Paramatma, with Krishna in your heart, and also because you are so kind and nice to others.
I try to be. And in addition to that, my understanding of the basic Krishna conscious philosophy is we're not the body. The body isn't who we really are. We have to understand who we are before we can understand our relationship with the divine. So I always struggled years ago when I heard that there was this political issue about women becoming gurus. Well, does it matter if they're a man or a woman? We're not the body. I don't.
Exactly.
I
That's
don't.
the essence of our philosophy. So why should it matter? And Srila Prabhupada never made differences, never taught people to make differences. He always said, girls and boys are the same. They all need to go out and preach, and everyone need to become a guru. Those were his words. So yeah, I also have a hard time with that.
Mm, mm. And I think also this is kind of my personal view now. I think women make very good leaders. I mean, lots of social studies have shown that women are more caring, empathetic. They're more, they have a better understanding of people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. There was some research done. I'm going to introduce a very controversial political issue now. There was some research done on the COVID pandemic, and they looked at which countries dealt with the research was looking at which countries dealt with giving messages to the public and how the public responded during the pandemic. And the top answer was that the countries run by women were a lot better at taking the audience, taking the crowd with them. The countries that had female presidents or female prime ministers, the public felt more included. They felt more like, we've got to do this together. And actually, they had a better response rate in terms of, what the government was asking them to do. There wasn't a lot of rebellion.
Well, it's because Krishna is those qualities in women. So it's natural that they are just female qualities that are proper of female, not that male don't have them, but that in women they are more prominent. And it's Krishna that is there present in those qualities. He himself explains all that. So when we understand that, then we are in a better place. I mean, definitely, no doubt, if this humankind we're gonna follow the Bhagavad Gita, things would be so beautiful because everything is explained, and then you would understand that the female nature has certain qualities that are very good for certain positions, and that it makes things easier because then you have that communication, that care, that love, and that going beyond that a woman with the motherly natural qualities goes beyond what is just needed. Like you need to give prasadam, you give prasadam, but you do it further. You take care of the health of your spiritual kids. You take care of their hearts, and you look at everyone having what comforts them. And that's natural for a woman. It's natural to listen. So I agree that women should be more and more in this capacity, and given also that today education is available to women in ways that it was not so easy in the past, then more and more opportunities should be given equally to women. And I'm not a feminist, really, and this sometimes also raise an uproar, like, how can you not be feminist if you're a woman? And my understanding is that if a man is very manly and a woman is properly a woman, everything goes great, that there are things that you don't need to fight for, that a woman should always be respected and have a place of equal rights, but also of respect to everything that is proper for a woman. So is something that I look forward to. I'm optimistic, and I see more and more spaces being created for women, and that it'll be possible in the future to have more female gurus as we need them.
I look forward to it. I absolutely look forward to it. Believe it or not, Maharani, we've been talking for well over an hour.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, and we've had a wonderful conversation.
It's very beautiful. The only thing I didn't get to tell you is that I have a mission here in San Diego.
Yes, please tell us about your mission and your projects.
I'm working to create here an ashram, particularly to give a spiritual shelter to women. So something similar to what you encountered that it exists in India. And is something that here in the US need to go through like lots of regulations with the IRS, so regarding taxes and the incorporation and everything. But I've been moving forward in that direction. And maybe one of the greatest obstacles is that it's so expensive to pay for each permit, each time that you advance in these postulations. You need to fill in forms and present them. And they come with a fee, so for them to read it. So the government asks you for a fee to read for your applications. And eventually, when you have done all of the ones that they ask you, they grant you this permission to be recognized as a temple. And then you can have officially your temple that works in an easier way with that recognition. Unless you are a billionaire and can just buy a big property and pay for everything as if it were your house, you cannot do it, because there are very expensive taxes that would apply. And when you manage to register it as a temple and be recognized that you have a mission, that you have followers, and that you belong to a tradition, and that you are doing this in all honesty and love, then you are given those legal recognitions. So I've been advancing, but the pandemic really made it slow. So since then, there are so many applications still piling on the desk, because they look at the paper applications, not just as computer files. And it's moving forward, and I'm about to get to a place where I will need to present new forms and new ones, because they always come with new ones. When you think it's the last one, they say, oh, no, there is actually a new one that we just decided that is needed. And they are expensive. So I have managed to register something. So if you are here in the US and you want to give donations, they are tax deductible. And there are many ways to contribute. And it's all done legally. So the bank account is on the name of the temple. I first registered it under the name of Bhakti Temple of Healing Arts, because Bhakti is the #1 healing art that I know of. And as a healer, for many years, I've been using the Maha Mantra as the main tool that I give people that come to see me, mainly with big depression. And it's incredible how they heal thanks to the Maha Mantra. So #1 healing tool. But also I use all the healing arts that I had been gifted with since childhood. I'm a Reiki master since I'm 8 years old. So I not only do healings, but I teach energy healing and also essential flowers, Ayurveda, yoga. I'm certified in all these forms of healing. I teach them also. I use them successfully. So my idea is that in a place where women and everyone, but particularly women, can cultivate their bhakti with a big shrine, a big temple room, and big spaces to cook for the deities, for themselves, and to practice all the limbs of bhakti yoga, they also need some healing rooms to take care of their health and to know, for example, what is their dosha, what kind of food is better for them to eat, what is better to avoid. And then they have a healthy body, because women particularly suffer from imbalances in the health that tend to be considered normal. And it's not normal. A woman does not need to have all kind of pains and sufferings in the body. So that's part of my objective, and that's my mission, to have here an ashram in the area of Ocean Beach, Point Loma, where I live in San Diego. We're moving forward, and we welcome donations, of course. As I say, they would be tax deductible if you are interested on that. And anyone is welcome to also come and participate and cooperate. Sometimes just helping me to serve dinner, or helping me to wash the pots afterwards, or to water the garden. So we have a beautiful place where we can sit during the spring and summer, or most of the year in San Diego, weather is fabulous. So most of the year we can sit outside. So little things like anyone can contribute according to their capacities, to go shopping for flowers and bring them. They are quite expensive here. So there are so many opportunities to do service, and I always ask people to do things that they like doing, that they would enjoy doing. I'm happy to teach anything to anyone, to cook, to make garlands, all the beautiful limbs of Bhakti Yoga. So that's what we are doing. Currently, I rent a small space. So we have a house program, a house temple, but it works in always as a temple works, only that it is small, and we need sometimes to get very cozy like in India, but it's wonderful. And we always have the patio and even the beach if needed, if the group is too big. So everyone is welcome to join us and come and participate of our satsangs. We chant a maha round every time we get together. We read Bhagavad Gita. We answer questions from Bhagavad Gita and from anything. Any question you have will have an answer in Bhakti Yoga, in scripture. So it's not something I'm improvising. It's something I have heard from my guru, that my guru heard from their guru. So it's really bona fide and beautiful. This is philosophy. It's not just blind faith. So people find here answers to their questions, and also health, because we are very happy to invite, after our Japamala, Maharound, Bhagavad Gita reading, Kirtan, to the key moment of our gathering, that is the prasadam. And it's always, don't panic, it's organic. So it's healthy, delicious prasadam that is good for your spirit, but also is very good for your body. So everyone is welcome to come and experience this and get an idea of what we are aiming to do, just in a bigger scale. It's the same that we're doing, but we want to have a bigger space so more people can come and at any time of the day, and people could be living there, mothers could be living their spiritual life the same way as I was welcome in my Gurudeva's temple when I needed it. But how beautiful to have it in a place that is just for women. It's amazing. We also do a satsang that is only for women, and it gives that feeling of how could it be to have a full ashram just for women. It's just wonderful. So thank you so much for this beautiful interview, for all your interest, for your love and support to women in spirituality and in all walks of life. Jai Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Jai, thank you, Maharani. That was wonderful. I'm so pleased at the end there you were able to tell us about your missionary work, your mission there in San Diego, and it sounds wonderful. If I ever make it to the United States, I will come and visit you.
Oh,
It sounds wonderful where the weather is just warm all year round and the weather's
yeah.
beautiful. Because at the moment it's always raining in the UK. It's raining every day and it's cold every day.
Well, you're welcome to escape the rain and come and chant with us here in San Diego and try our Don't Panic, It's Organic
I love
prashadam.
that. I love that. See, I work in marketing and PR, and I can tell you that's a fantastic strapline, fantastic slogan. Don't panic, it's organic.
My Gurudeva loves it.
It's
He wanted
wonderful.
me to register it. And I was like, I'm sure it's not possible, Gurudeva, to register such a thing, but I'm happy to always say it because it's true. Even though it's more expensive, I do it all the time because I do believe that we need to eat organic food. If you are eating plastic, if you're eating genetically modified food, your health will suffer. We are not made for that. That is not food.
Jai Garanga. Okay, Maharani. I'm just going to say goodbye to our guests, and then we will have a very brief debrief after. So it's been wonderful to have Maharani Jay Bhakti Goswamini as our guest, our 73rd guest on the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast, which is brought to you by the Hare Krishna Project, which is an initiative here based in the UK to share Krishna consciousness with the wider public. But we do get an audience from the United States and elsewhere. And it's been really, I find it really uplifting and inspiring to hear from Maharani this week, to hear her story. And I hope people will follow her, will go and visit her mission and hear what she has to say. And I love, I mean, I personally love the idea of women giving, I mean, it sounds silly, but women giving advice and guidance to others. It's such a natural thing. You know, our mothers are women. You know, the most important person in my life is my mother in that kind of material sense. A woman brought me into the world. Why wouldn't I go to her for advice and guidance? I saw my mother just earlier today.
God.
Jai Garanga. So a big thank you to Maharani for being our guest on this week's edition of the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, please do put a positive comment. If you have anything negative to say, please do say it in a constructive way. What do you want to see differently? You know, what's your view on kind of social issues within the Hare Krishna movement? If you're watching this on Facebook, please do like, love, or care for it and follow the page. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please do click the all-important subscribe button on this page so you can get lots of updates as to who our guests are in the future. So until next week, we'll see you all soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Krishna, thank you so much.